The first rule of driving for teens and for young adults and really for anybody is to have a what I would call a very close relationship with your medicine. One of the things we do in the book and in my office that we believe is a key part of the therapy for ADD is to get people to be aware, to be conscious and intentional about their bodies and how they respond to medicine. And for many folks with ADD, this is not easy because they are not as in tune with those kinds of processes. They're thinking about much more interesting things than how their body is reacting. But we try to get them to really notice that. Now, if we have listeners who are diabetic, I'm type 2 diabetic, it's a good analogy because you teach folks with diabetes to check their blood sugar before they drive, to be sure it's in a certain range, to have a little snack if they go low, because if you don't know, low blood sugar is a fairly dangerous thing when you're behind the wheel because you can either have poor judgment or right up to the point where you would even pass out if you really go too low. So we always have people be very, very conscious about that with diabetes. The same philosophy has to really hold true for ADD. You have to know when your medicine is at its best during the day, which typically is going to be in the first 6 to 10 hours, depending on which medicine you're on. The Daytrana patch can last longer than that. Vyvanse is very long. If you're on short-acting medicine, it's a little like the diabetic and insulin. You have to be sure you know how your medicine is affecting you before you drive. Now, do I know people who have ADD who do just fine driving off their medicine? I do know those people. I don't know what makes them different. Maybe, again, there's a little anxiety there. The ADD drivers who are a little anxious seem to do better because they worry about tickets and they worry about accidents. But for some reason, some people have less trouble than others. Know thyself, as Shakespeare said, and be aware, am I in the medicine arc or am I out of it? Do I need to be in the medicine arc? Am I out of it? Watch out also for fatigue, because if you have ADD, fatigue absolutely lowers your ability to focus your attention, which is why sleep deprivation can look a lot like ADD. So being very careful about those big issues, knowing your medicine, and not driving endlessly into the night are all important things. We talked a few minutes ago about watching the white lines disappear under the car. Hyperfocus is great when you have to write a report for school and you waited to the last minute and then you work, and magically it comes out pretty good, which then rewards you for procrastination, which isn't always a good thing. But hyperfocus is not very safe in driving, again, because the nature of driving is to take in all sorts of variables. It's multitasking. And hyperfocus is single tasking by and large. So you want to teach teenagers, and as a driver, if you are a teenager or young adult, really begin to learn to be constantly changing what you're noticing. You're scanning the environment. You're trying to take in a lot of information. What should I be thinking about? If you have younger kids, a game I like to play with my kids as they are approaching driving is, I call it, what am I thinking about right now? And so you're driving down the road and your kid is old enough now to be in the front seat with you, and you're out on the highway, let's say, or we're driving in town, and you say to the kid, look out, tell me what I'm thinking about right now. What am I interested in on the road? And they say, oh, well, there's a car slowing down up ahead. Good. Their brake lights are coming on. Good. But what about that person stepping out in front of the jaywalking area? Oh, I didn't see them. You begin to start a dialogue with the kids. Many kids actually find that kind of fun. It's almost like the license plate game. They're trying to predict what's the most important thing in traffic to consider. You can start that before they're even teenagers, and they'll think that's pretty fun. You just have to get them away from their iPad for a while to do that. So that's one of those things that helps build a broader focus, and kids begin to think of driving as this multitasking process and moves against hyperfocus.